In this video, we are going to create a rolling die thunkable app for the rolling die algorithm we wrote in previous video. Just to refresh your memory, this was an algorithm which was called rolling die, and it was getting a parameter n, which was a positive integer representing the number of times our die has been rolled, and the return value of the algorithm was the string like this one, which was representing, for instance, face with number 1 on it came 3 times, face with number 2 2 times, and so forth. Or if we rolled it 1,000 times, this was the return value. And this was the algorithm we wrote. Now we are going to write our version 1 of the thunkable app. It's going to be another version which we are going to simplify the whole process of the code. So again, we are going to go create a new app. Let's call it rolling die, and we have a version which is version 1. Again, we are not going to assign any category or change the public to private, and we create. Our app takes the number of rolls, so I need the text input here, and also I need a button to start the process. I also need an alert, so I'm going to drag and drop it here. Again, it goes down because it's invisible block. Now I want the button to go down, so I'm going to drag and drop it under text input 1. Now again, I'm going to change the name to something like N and the hint to be N. For the button, I'm going to change the text to be submit, and for the alert, the title, I'm going to say rolling die. I don't need 2 buttons again, I need only 1, so I'm going to call it OK, the text, and then the next one I'm going to cancel it. So this is our design right now. So now let's go to the blocks and see how the code works. The first thing is what we have to do. If you look at the algorithm, we have all these variables here, so I have to create 2, 4, 6, 7 variables here. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to go to variables, and I'm going to create the first one. I'm going to call it index, and I'm going to set the value to be 0. Now I'm going to duplicate this one a few times. The first one I'm going to call 1. The second one I'm going to call 2. The next one I'm going to call 3, 4, 5. The next one is 6. And also I need one for S, the string, so I'm going to call it S. And another one for the random number which is generated, we call it I. Let's see if we need any more. 1 to 6 here, then index, then I here, and then at the bottom we had S. That's all we need. So these are all our variables. Now the process starts when the button is clicked. So I'm going to click on the button, and I'm going to bring when button is clicked. We have to initialize all these variables 1 to 6 equal to 0. Remember, the user can click on the button more than once. So to make sure that all these variables start from 0, we have to make them equal to 0. So I'm going to set 1 to be 0. Now I'm going to duplicate this one 5 more times. So this is going to be 2, this is going to be 3, this is going to be 4, this is going to be 5, and this is going to be 6. So these are all the initializing of the variables. The next thing I'm going to do is that if we go back here, we are going to go through a loop n number of times. So I need a loop which is equivalent to the count. So I go to control and I'm going to drag and drop the count here. Remember the count, first of all, we used index in our algorithm. So I'm going to rename this one to index. And it starts from 1 and it goes to n. So I have to get n out. But n is coming from a text box. So as usual, I'm going to create a new variable and call it n here, and then I'm going to convert the text to an integer. So I'm going to duplicate this one. I need this one, and I'm going to set this one to n, and now I have to add a 0 to the value as we did in previous example. So this one I am going to make it 0, and here I need the text of the input n. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to drag and drop n dot get text plus 0. So I don't need this 0 anymore. So n has been converted to a number, and here I have to continue until n. So I go to variables, and then I'm going to get, let's say, this index here, and I'm going to change this one to n. So our index goes from 1 to n by 1, which is exactly what we want here in the algorithm. Our index, if you look here, the maximum value is n and is going to be incremented by 1 every time. Now, the first thing I have to do is to generate a random number between 1 and 6. We never generated any random number before. So to do that one, first I have to set the value to I. So I'm going to go to variables, or I can just duplicate this one. The first one doesn't matter. I can change this one to I, and I have to set it to a random number from 1 to 6. To do that one, I go to math. If you go down, it says random integer from 1 to 100. So I'm going to bring this one down, and I'm going to make this one 6. So it's going to generate a random number from 1 to 6 inclusively. When I get that value, I is going to be set to this value. Now I am going to go and start designing all these ifs. So I'm going to go to control and bring one if else here. So I'm going to say if I is equal to 1, so I'm going to go logic, bring equal, and I'm going to say if I, so variable I, again I take this one, change it to I, if variable I is equal to 1. So I'm going to duplicate one of these and put it here. So if this is true, then I'm going to increment 1 by 1. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to get one of these, let's say this one, because it has the addition block here. So I'm going to say add 1 to variable 1. So I'm going to duplicate this one, put it here, and then change this one to 1. So if I is 1, then I'm going to set application 1, the variable 1, to be equal to 1 plus 1. So I incremented 1 by 1. Now I have to do exactly the same thing for 2, 3 to 6. So I'm going to duplicate this one and put it here. Now I'm going to change this one to 2 and make this one to 2. Again, I am just doing exactly like what I have here, but I'm using the else block. Much easier now. Instead of having if and if and if. So this is going to be for number 2. Again, I'm going to duplicate it and make this one 3, make this one 3, make this one 3. So this is for 3. Now I'm going to do the same thing now for 4. So I'm going to say if this one is equal to 4, then change this one to 4 and change this one to 4. Now I'm going to duplicate this one and make it 5. If it is 5, then this one becomes 5 and this becomes 5. If the last one is 6, so I'm going to change this one to 6, this one to 6, this one to 6. I don't need any more else, so I'm going to go here and get this else out, and then I close this one. So you can see how big all these codes are. The only thing is that make sure that everything is okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6. Hopefully everything is okay here. When we are done with this loop, this is the loop here. I'm going to go outside here and I'm going to set the message here. So I'm going to set the variable s to be this string here. So I have to create the same string. So I go back here and I'm going to say that since I have to join all these texts together, I need a join here. Okay, if we look here, we have a number then colon space. So I'm going to start with 1 colon space. This is the first one. Then we have to add the value of 1. So I'm going to take this one out and I'm going to add a value of 1. So I have to go to variables and get this one. And this one is 1. Now what do I have to do? I have to repeat the same process. So I'm going to add a few of these. Okay, so I'm going to close this one. Now if we go back here, the next one is comma 2 colon. So I'm going to copy this one and I'm going to write comma 2 colon space, and then I'm going to do 2. So I'm going to change this one to 2. Now if I go back here, then it's the same thing, comma 3 colon, comma space 3 colon, and then 3. So let's see, it needs a space here. So I'm going to copy this one, I'm going to put it here, and then I'm going to change 2 to 3, and I'm going to copy this one. So this is going to be my 3. I need more sockets, so I'm going to go down here and I'm going to add more sockets here. Okay, I think hopefully that's enough. Now this one goes here. Now I'm going to duplicate this one, and I'm going to change this one to 4, and I'm going to copy this one and change it to 4. So this one becomes 4. Now I'm going to copy this one, change it to 5, and then again copy this one and change it to 5. And the last one is 6, so I'm going to copy this one here, change this one to 6, and then I'm going to move this one here and change this one to 6. So I have 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6. I have already set my S to this. Now I have to return it, meaning I have to set the message of alert to S. So this one has to be S. So I'm going to copy this one, put it here, change this one to S, and then I'm going to activate my alert. So this is the code which duplicates the algorithm we wrote previously. You can see how long is the code. In the next version, we are going to simplify it much easy. But for the time being, these are the basic tools we have, so we are using what we have handy. So let's go and check the result. So let's go back to design, go to preview. Let's see what will happen if I do 10 rows. It's giving me these values. Number 1 has come up 0 times, 2 is 1, 3 is 2, 4 is 4, 5 is 2, 6 is 1. If we add all these, let's see if it's 10. 1, 2 is 3, plus 4 is 7, plus 2 is 9, plus 1 is 10, which is correct. With 10 times rolling, you can see our random number generator in thunkable is not really a random number generator. The reason is that if you look at number, for instance, 4 has come up 4 times, but number 1 has come up 0 times. If it's really a random number, then every digit, meaning 1 to 6 inclusively, they have to come up about 10 over 6, which is about 1 point something. So this one tells you that the random number generator is not perfect. But let's try with the more rules. Let's do it with 100. For 100, you can see that 1 came up 15, 2 is 18, 3 is 15, 4 is 14, 5 is 19, and 6 is 19. If we divide 100 by 6, 16.7, around 16. And you can see the numbers are close to 16. Let's try it with 1000. Now look at it. 166, around 166. You can see this is 150, 100, I'm sorry, 170, 172, 164. They are almost the same. But anyway, this was the version 1 of our rolling die.